she's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I am thrilled to be here with you. Thank you guys for joining us on this fine Saturday evening as we break into another 2-hour fun-filled romp into the world of the Paranormal Portal. So I hope you all are ready for that. Just know also that the phones will be open throughout the show. We'll be talking a bunch, but if you've got questions that you'd like to ask our guests tonight, you can certainly do that by calling in 720-923-0500. But I'm not alone here as well. Right here in the studio, I got my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard, sitting right here with me.
Hola, Beans.
Hola, ¿qué pasa, amigo? That means, how you doing?
Oh, ¿cómo está?
Bien y tú. We're getting worldly.
Beans eating what?
Bien, not bean.
Oh.
No, we won't go into the beans. But welcome, everybody. We have a good show, I think, lined up for you. I'm excited about this one because I think that there is a synchronicity, there is a harmony between our spirituality and our health and well-being. And our health and well-being is very directly affected by what we do with our bodies in our journey on this planet. I think it's getting harder and harder in our modern day to live healthy and live well. Would you agree with that, Don?
Yes. With all the processed food that we get served up and all the fast food and the easy stuff to do, fork food and sitting down at a table with fresh food and fresh good company and love and all that gets lost in the mix.
Exactly. No, I agree. I think that we take a lot of that for granted, and that's a good point too, I guess, is how are you actually partaking of things. I think that the setting also plays a lot into that. I'm sure it probably helps in digestion and probably making sure you chew your food enough instead of like swallowing quickly to get done.
I guess I didn't realize that was a thing.
I find myself doing the anaconda swallow. It's like, got this big lump going down my throat.
Cats do that too. They'll pull off chunks of meat and just swallow it.
Sure, yeah. I'm currently not part cat that I know of.
Chewing is overrated.
But we have a great we have a great show for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we're going to be focusing on water. And water, I think, is about the most fundamental of all the things we put in. It's about one of the prime building blocks of life. And in today's world, water is, I think, one of the most at-risk things that we have going on, is getting clean, pure water. And since Don and I are probably not equipped to have that discussion, we brought in our local ringer, Mr. Carlton Moore, who is joining us. He is also known as the Pharmacy Seed Network. He's welcome, brother. How you doing?
Hello, Brent and Don. How are you guys? I'm doing good.
You sound quiet.
Oh, I do?
Yeah,
is this any better?
That
That's
is
much
much
better.
better. It's amazing what
I
those
was just
microphones do.
speaking shy, I guess.
Don't be
Sorry.
shy. You're part of the team. You're part of the team tonight. Welcome to the show, brother, and we appreciate you coming on to do this. Of course, you made an appearance one other time, and we talked about nutrition and health, and I think that was a huge eye-opener, not only for myself, but for our listeners. I think a lot of people walked away from that episode learning a lot. I know I did, and I'm really excited to get into this water tonight because I think water is about one of the most important substances that we take into our bodies, and I think it's also one of the most screwed up substances in our modern day.
Yeah, I completely agree. And man, like, pardon the pun, but water is such a deep subject. It's really.
Oh no,
I
you
mean-
didn't.
Oh yes, he did.
Yes, he
No,
did.
It's really amazing. From a strictly a chemical standpoint, it's interesting. But when you get into the energetic side of it, it's way, way, way more interesting and mind-blowing and fascinating.
Wow. Well, and that's what we're going to try to do tonight. Could you restart your camera again? Because you're kind of frozen.
I sure can. I don't
yeah.
know why it's
Your audio's
doing the
doing great.
freezer.
Your audio's doing great, but your for some reason your camera likes to lock when you're and it's not that the pose was bad, but it's like where you're frozen in a smile there. So, but yeah, I think this is important, and I think that's here's the thing, and this is how I think it ties in to the Paranormal Portal, ladies and gentlemen, because you might be thinking, well, this is a paranormal show. What the hell are they talking about water for? A lot of times water is utilized not only for ourselves as a cleansing method to purify ourselves, not only in body, but also in spirit. There's a wide held belief that the water we take in is not just cleansing our bodies and nourishing our bodies and hydrating. It's also helping to pull negative energy out of us. And also we use water in rituals, holy water. There's moon water for the pagans, and there's several functions that utilize water. And I think, honestly, I really believe that utilizing water that is less than pure will have marked results, it will be much less potent. I think, because I think everything you put into a substance changes that substance. So in other words, we're used to having fluoridated waters in this country and around the world. Many countries are the same. But I really think that those two elements alone, and God knows what else is in there, but those two elements alone, I think, fundamentally change what water is and how it works for us. Would you agree with that, Carlton?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
And so
Yeah.
we're going to get into that tonight. I guess probably one of the best places to start, I think, is in most people hear about water. Automatically, we're thinking of Flint, Michigan. We're thinking of all of these cities around the world that have this aging infrastructure where, there was less than pristine pipes and lead used in the soldering, and now it's leaching into the water that people are drinking. It just seems to be everybody's most familiar with water in that regard. Can you explain a little bit about what you know about all that to us, Carlton?
Yeah, so water, I mean, like, chemical pollution is one thing, right? But then there's energetic pollution as well. But like, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question just for a second? 'Cause,
No.
my camera's giving me a hard time here. I was trying to straighten that out.
Well, I think I'd like to hear you continue that chain of thought, though. The chemical pollution and energetic pollution. That's a great thing to discuss. So could you finish that thought?
Yeah, sure. Like chemical pollution would be something like lead, chemicals, toxins, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Obviously, those can affect water, and to some degree, some of those things can be filtered out through many different methods. And I guess one of the most effective methods is reverse osmosis.
Hmm.
But one thing that they found is some new studies have been done where they found that you can, as much as you can filter something out, like say chlorine, for example, there's still a signature left in that water. Even if you've removed all the chlorine, there's still a signature in that water, and it's not the same as it was before it was exposed to that chlorine. So it's kind of like still having the chlorine in there, if that
Oh.
makes sense.
It does, and I find that really curious. That so what does a person do about that then? So they got this water they've now cleared. It doesn't have chlorine in it anymore. Maybe it doesn't have the fluoride in it anymore. But what do they do then to remove that corruption of the presence, the one presence of these items? What do you do to clear the water after that?
Okay. Well, it always goes back to natural processes, interestingly enough.
Okay.
And the two that I'm aware of that are effective, one is a form of water circulation, and it's basically using vortexing. And it's interesting to note that if you look at a whirlpool of water going down a drain, that's a
Hmm.
vortex, right? That same pattern repeats throughout nature, and that pattern is purifying no matter where you see it in nature. Like a tornado comes through, and while that's devastating to the people and whatever's in its path, at the same time, it's nature's reset and nature's purification. And I think we see that with stars exploding, black holes, like from the macro to the micro.
Hmm.
That seems to be a pattern that renews and refreshes things. So vortexing was one method that was developed by Victor Schauberger, and he's a really interesting guy. He was from Austria. His dad was a forester, basically in Austria, and he grew up studying the streams and how the streams flowed.
Hmm.
And he ended up adopting his father's position and improving the whole logging process in Austria while maintaining the ecology of the stream. Uh, he also improved the efficiency of moving those logs down the stream without getting log jams and all that kind of stuff, and all based on water and how it flows naturally.
Oh, okay. So by virtue of spinning water, it would have a purification process for it.
Yes, yes. So he made several different machines. You can look him up. There's a great documentary on him. One of the machines he made is specifically for purifying water. And if I remember correctly, it's basically in an egg shape, and
Hmm.
it's moving the water through channels in that egg shape. So it's basically vortexing through this egg-shaped thing. It's really interesting. But I forget exactly what the studies they did, but they did studies to determine how that water affected germinating seedlings, human health, all that sort of stuff. And there were tremendous benefits of water that he could purify that way.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that was one of the methods. Did you know the other one?
The other one is magnetics.
Oh.
And that one I don't know as well, but basically you're passing water through magnetic fields, and those magnetic fields affect it. And interestingly enough, I've stumbled across that on the farming side of things as well. One of the methods they use for removing toxins or pesticide chemicals from the growing soil of a farm to
Hmm.
get it to leach further down is using a water that was magnetized, and that somehow that magnetized water is able to release those toxins and chelate them out into the water and pull them further down in the soil. Of course, the downside of that is now they're further in the soil, but at least they get out of the root zone of the plants.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay. And chelation, we hear that a lot in terms of supplements and minerals for our bodies. Is that the process then again of removing those things from us in the same kind of manner?
yeah, yeah. Chelation is basically a chemical process where one thing locks up with another, and because it's locked up, atomically or which is really electronically too in its own right, it's able to pull that thing out and take it with it when it comes out. So, and that's
Oh.
part of why the importance of the right consuming living clean water, and we can get to living water at some point in this conversation too.
Yeah, I'd like to, because I've heard that tossed around, and I have to admit that I don't know much about this, but I think that the benefits of knowing this is incredibly important, especially as I think there just is a growing trend of people that are so much more cognizant of health, in the whole big picture. It's like it seems like our societies were pushed to this maddening pace through recent history, especially. But people are asked to do more and more and more with less and less, and take on more jobs, do more productivity, and so things like McDonald's, and I'm not bashing on McDonald's per se. It is what it is, but. Of course, when that's your primary diet is in a drive-through, you're sucking in so much horrible stuff, and I think that it has a cumulative effect. I think we often hear about chemicals that pass the blood brain barrier, and they end up getting deposited in our heads. And one of the questions I want to ask you, and this is personal curiosity more than anything, but does the chelation work in that regard? The things that are already deposited in our heads, like that. I think it's fluoride accumulates in the head. Isn't that right?
Yep. Yeah, fluoride. There's a bunch of stuff that can do that, especially chemicals and toxins. And some of the research that I've looked at and heard about actually refers to like that being playing a part in Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and brain diseases like that.
Right.
Now, I can't say that I could cite any studies or that I know of any information directly that specifically says that you can chelate things directly out of the brain. But my thought is, if it can cross the blood-brain barrier in, it could cross it out if you had something that could pass through it and still chelate whatever it is you're trying to pull. And also, you consider the blood flow that goes through the human brain is tremendous. I mean, that's, we're piping that whole channel
Mine
right
especially.
through there. I mean, sometimes my channel's turned off and I do stupid things, but for the most part.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic, and I'm really excited by a lot of this new and new and fresh approaches to this, because I don't ever want to badmouth any of professions. I think that there are people that are working with different knowledge sets, and they're doing the best they can, and I think that our by and large, I do think the medical community is a bunch of people that really believe in what they're doing. I'm not saying that's exclusively the case. I think that the higher on the food chain you go, the less altruistic it is. But I think everybody that's doing their jobs are doing it to the best of their ability and with the best conscience. But I'm really glad that there's a lot of this other research going on by people with different approaches, because I really think that probably our salvation is going to be in the natural approaches to cleanse and kind of reboot our systems off of this Franken foods and stuff that we're eating and drinking, and to get us kind of back to a norm.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think as much of this like toxic stuff that we've been exposed to is bad, maybe it's also good in a way, because now that we know what not to do, boy, can we really go in the right direction, huh?
Yeah, if we could get some kind of consensus on what to do, I think that's the other problem then, is that we run into those different schools of thoughts and those different approaches to some kind of cure, and some of them are scarier than the actual disease, and others seem really cool and wonderful, but are they as effective? And therein lies the conundrum, I guess. But I really think that water is just so fundamental. I heard, of course, all the people in Flint, Michigan, dealing with water, and probably still are, to be honest with you. It was like nothing was getting done there, with all of that hype and people, chanting and running around yelling. I don't know that the problem's been solved there, but I think that what people may not understand is that wasn't exclusive to Flint. It's like every major city, I think, is dealing with some form of this same problem. It just hasn't hit the headlines.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard a lot of that too, and that's scary for the people that live in the cities. And man, uh, how do you fix that? That's like a nationwide major underlying problem, and I'll bet that's a major underlying cause why we have so many behavioral issues in our society. And you got to imagine the spiritual impact of that has got to be incredible, right? From a health perspective, and also from the water perspective. Some of the stuff we're going to get into tonight is, I think, will help people understand what I mean more by when I say that.
Yes.
But,
Now, I guess what we've got about 7 minutes left before the break, but I think we should probably talk about what are some methods that people can do right now. What are some things that people can do in their homes? Coming up with solutions to try to mitigate some of this. What are ways that people can clean their water?
all right. Well, I mean, certainly filtration is not something that you shouldn't do. I probably would start with that if you can't obtain clean water from other sources. But there is a website that you can go on. It's called findaspring.com, and you can look up springs that are nearby you. And so that's one way you can get like clean drinking water. And
cool.
it's really some of the best water you can get is from springs, and that's a living form of water. That's a natural form of water.
I'm just pulling that up right now. As a matter of fact, I thought I would put it up on screen so that we could see what is this all about. So this is actually natural springs people can get to.
Yes, and that website was started by Daniel Vitalis. I think I might have mentioned him last time we talked. He has a podcast. Oh, what's it called? I can't remember the name of the podcast off the top of my head at the moment. But
okay.
So he started that website so that people could find and connect on springs and share that spring information, and share the state and quality of the spring as well. So when you click on that, there's a map, and you can zoom into your area and see where all the springs are in your area.
Oh wow, yeah, I'm looking in our region right now, and so these are accessible though. I mean, they're not on private property, or anybody can come up with a jug and start filling them up. That's really cool.
Right.
We used to go to Mount Rainier, and we took our empty milk jugs.
Oh, nice.
Get them right off the mountain.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice. Yeah, we used to go up to 214 here and over by Hunter, here in New York. Nice spring up there. But there's a spring here on the property, and we had the water tested, so now I'm using that.
And is it good? I mean,
it's pretty nice. It's not quite as nice as the spring up on 214. That flows through rock and old mountains, and it's just really crystal clear, energetic water. But the stuff here is pretty nice.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm just looking at this. This is really neat. It does look like, I'm sure there's probably more that have yet to be entered that exist in here, but it does look like pretty much everywhere there's something. Well, unless you're in South Dakota, it looks like you're screwed then. They don't seem to have any springs in South Dakota. So
there's no fresh water in North Dakota.
Yes, north or south. Apparently,
it's all fracking.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I guess no. The problem is I'm just looking at. I had clicked Idaho from the map and I screwed that up. So I'm just looking at this because this is really interesting. I think that this is a great resource. Let's look at Minnesota. Let's say, okay, that's my old stomping grounds. I just want to see this. Oh yeah, no kidding. Yeah, there are quite a few around here. Okay.
Yeah, like if you go to New York, where I am, I think part of the reason for the fewer or greater number of pins on there is population. If there's more people around to discover the springs and put them on the map, then obviously you're going to have more springs show up on the map.
Oh, sure, sure. Oh yeah, New
Like
York is
New
peppered.
York, we have quite a few springs, and we have tremendous populations. So
And so now let me ask you about this. So well, we got about 3 minutes out. We'll continue with more of this part of it afterwards because I got some questions about collecting this kind of water and any contraindications that may exist in that because I'm worried sometimes about the use of plastics. I think that
yeah,
those are kind of sketchy.
we need to talk about that tonight for sure.
Okay.
That is a huge factor.
And,
Yes.
and I'm guilty of this too, right? So I drink bottled water all the time. Now it says it's 100% mountain spring water. I'm hoping it is, but it
Depends
does.
where you get it from.
Well, I got it from Safeway, but it is served up in these little plastic, cans.
As long as they're BPA and BPB free, they should be fine.
But now I've heard though,
Should
Don, that
be.
there's more
Oh yeah,
than just those two. That those are just the famous
the
ones
famous
right
ones,
now.
yeah.
Those are the famous ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty intense. But we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we've got a lot to talk about. Now, I just pulled up the USA, and this is just one big, huge, collection of these springs, and there really are pretty much everywhere. But yeah, Montana's not looking real good. The west side of Montana looks okay, but the east side, you're going to be in trouble. And there are 2 located in North Dakota, and it looks like 2 in South Dakota. Nebraska, you might have to share one with Iowa.
Them damn Iowans.
So I don't know where you guys live, and that's of course is this a global map too? It says
I'm not sure.
okay. I see North America,
not sure.
Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, and Oceania. What the hell's Oceania? I'm gonna look. That's
Way over there.
oh, it's Australia. Okay. Okay.
There you go. Oh,
There you
Nessie's
go.
gonna be mad at us.
And New Zealand. So yeah, that's all there. So there is resources there for you guys that are over across the pond to our down under friends. And looks like there's pretty much every continent is well, they got hot springs too. Ooh, that's good.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah. So very cool.
Yeah, I haven't been to that site in a while, but
Yeah.
excellent tool for finding fresh living water.
That's really, really cool. And I appreciate bringing this to the attention of all of us because I didn't know this existed. But I find it incredibly exciting. I'm sure Canada's going to be just peppered with them too, huh?
Yeah. I would think, and I would think even eastern Montana probably has quite a few too. There's just probably not as many people to find them and report them, because you'd have to know about the site to report them.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, break number 1 is upon us, but as you can see, it's going to be a journey of discovery here on the Portal tonight. So don't go away for more of the Paranormal Portal in just a couple minutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Second half hour is now underway. We are cruising through the night. Don and I are having a blast as always, but we are joined by our good friend and special guest tonight, Mr. Carlton Moore, who's joining us to talk about the science and spirituality of water, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, water, that substance that we all take for granted, but is probably systematically breaking us down into fudge. I don't know. It's
Back to primordial ooze.
we're decomposing as we're here, full of chlorine and fluoride and who knows what else. Probably a bunch of glyphosate too, because that stuff just goes everywhere. I think that's been found in the water table, isn't it?
I'm not sure about the water table, but I know it's been found in rain samples all over North America and even in some very remote places. So if it's in the rain samples, you can bet it's leaching into the water table. If it hasn't yet, it will be.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. That's scary stuff. That stuff is nasty. That's the magical ingredient, ladies and gentlemen, in common weed brands like Roundup, which is brought to you by your friendly neighbors at Monsanto. Monsanto Bear. They'll take care of you, one way or the other.
Oh yeah, they'll fix you.
They'll fix you. They'll fix you good, huh? So anyway, be careful about that water. So we're talking about water tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and things that people can do to try to be careful about what they're putting into their bodies. Now, Carlton, a lot of people in the chat are saying, filter your water, boil your water. What do you think of that?
Boy, you really got to know what you're starting with. Filtering can help. Obviously, it's better to remove more of the toxins that you can. But at the end of the day, if you're not removing all of it, you're still putting toxins into your body. What amount of toxin is acceptable to you? Because the concept of having an acceptable amount of toxins in your food or water is really not a great one when you consider what that really means. It means that it's okay to put some chemicals in your body that aren't meant to go in your body.
That's a good point. I mean, if you hear these, well, there's less than the recommended daily amount, that must be okay. But that still means you're getting some of that stuff. And in many cases, these substances are cumulative, right? They'll build up within our like, especially for me, the fatty tissues.
For sure.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean,
Yeah. The other problem is they build up in reproductive organs, eyes, liver, spleen, all of those super critical organs that have very specific functions and do very specific jobs. Those are the ones it locks up in.
But there's of course I've read I read somewhere and I can't be sure where anymore, but there was somebody citing that even glyphosate was found in the breast milk of nursing mothers.
Yep.
That's scary. That's terrifying. Scary.
And then the question is, where is that coming from? Is that coming from the water that the mothers are drinking, or is that coming from the food that they're eating? Because it's in both.
Right.
Well, it's also going to be in your meat if they're feeding, anything that they feed to the cows or whatever that is that's been treated with glyphosates. So it could literally come from anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, and as you go up the food chain, it accumulates.
Oh, sure. Right. A lot like DDT did back in the 50s.
Oh no, DDT won't kill you.
It
No.
almost decimated the
No.
eagle population around
Yeah.
because it went into the bugs, which went into the fish, which went into the eagles, which fell from the sky. It was almost an extinct species because almost single-handedly from DDT, isn't that right?
Yeah, yes, it is, and what it did was it made their shells so thin that they couldn't maintain an egg long enough to gestate the egg to a chick.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's just one example, ladies and gentlemen, of how these things in our environments causes problems. Now, you might be wondering, how's glyphosate getting in the food? Well, it's used as an herbicide by a lot of farmers. In fact, the companies like Monsanto have made specifically genetically altered seeds that can withstand glyphosate, so they can spray the hell out of a field, kill everything else in there. Oh, yeah. Kill everything else in there, and their resistant Franken plant will be just fine, but it's able to suck that stuff up, and then it's passing it into the foods into you or into wherever those foods are going. Now, also the wheat industry, they used to just let their fields naturally dry. But they found that it's much more efficient if you go through the wheat fields when it's matured and spray all of it with glyphosate so it all dies at the same time so they can harvest the entire field in one swoop. And there goes your cereal and your bread and any kind of noodles. Anything that uses wheat, you can almost guarantee you're ingesting glyphosate. Now, that to me is terrifying. I don't know.
And it's not just wheat they're doing that. I know they do that with flaxseed too, and I don't know what other grains they do, but I'm sure there are others.
Right. Yeah, especially if they rely on a specific schedule for harvest, then I guess the problem used to be for the wheat farmers is that part of the field would be dry, ready to harvest, but they'd still be waiting on other parts, so it caused this prolonged harvest season. And I understand why they would do it because it made sense. And as far as everybody was concerned, this stuff was harmless. It was that
Unless they were sold that bill. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That one idiot that worked for Monsanto was talking about, I could drink a whole quart of it now and it wouldn't do me any problem. The guy said, hey,
Oh, here, try it.
turns out we got some. You want it? He goes,
No, and it runs out mad.
No, I'm not stupid. And then he runs out mad because he got
Are you
confronted.
implying we are?
Yeah, exactly. But he made that claim in an interview, ladies and gentlemen, the representative from Monsanto, and the guy giving the interview called him on it. Said, "Well, we have a jar of it here. You're welcome to drink it. Would you do that?" And he went, "No, I wouldn't. I'm not stupid."
That's a company man right there.
Yeah, exactly. He was towing the company line, and he
ran out of that interview very angry too.
Yeah, he was cussing on the way out, shouting profanities about how they were. Yeah, I mean, it was disgusting, but it was a real eye opener to see that when they're called on their own dogma, then I guess the truth comes out. So this glyphosate is everywhere, and this is just one chemical example, ladies and gentlemen, of what's out there and what's sprayed around and is making it into our foods, into our aquifers, into our diet, and most often with even if you're eating organics and stuff like that, these things can also end up being present in that. We did have a question from the chat from Titan, who's asking if it's necessary to filter rainwater.
I think as a general rule, not really, because rainwater is basically distilled natural water. But the problem is we have other things going on in our atmospheres now, and so I can't say that that's totally safe either. And I don't want to take us down a deep rabbit hole on that answer.
You don't want to talk about silver nitrate and aluminum and barium,
strontium and barium and other things that they're spraying in the
no
skies.
way.
I'd love to talk about it, but I know that's a sensitive topic, and we don't want to upset the wrong people, I suppose.
Yeah, we try to keep it as neutral as we can, but no, I'm with you. That whole chemical altering of our skies is incredibly concerning as well.
So Carlton, what methods would you suggest people take? People say, "Oh, I use a Brita, or I use an Alexapure, or I use a what was that other one that started with a B?
Berkey.
Berkey. Or I boil my water, or I distill my water. You know, all these things are fine and well, but you know, boiling your water doesn't take out those metals, and it doesn't really do anything to fluoride. And a lot of these water filter companies, um, they make promises, and that promise can only be upheld for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and you know, especially these gravity filters that take out fluoride. Um, you know, there's a lot of BS that goes up behind that. And plus, if you distill your water, you're removing the natural minerals that your body actually needs. That's why when
Yeah.
you buy that's why when you buy a lot of distilled water, it says with minerals added, because they've taken out all the minerals, so they've had to put it back in. So, what would your preferred method be in that?
Boy, the filtration thing is hard, but I think what I would say is probably the best method you could use is unfortunately still one of the most expensive ones, and that is reverse osmosis.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Um, and that's basically reverse osmosis is it's basically a filter that is so small only water molecules can pass through the filter.
Oh.
And so that's how you basically leave behind anything else.
hmm But then once again, you end up with water that's minerally deficient.
Right.
So,
Minerally deficient, and I just want to make the point. People talk about boiling, freezing, that whole thing. Uh, Energetically, that kills water. As soon as you boil water, you've
right,
taken the life out of it.
yeah, you've removed the oxygen from it.
Right.
It
Right.
releases some of that oxygen.
And the other thing that does is it sort of resets that energetic signature. Boiling and freezing water both do that. Again, these are natural processes that you know, like if water's exposed to a volcano, that's a natural process that would, steam that water, and now it's been changed again energetically, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And same with freezing.
Right.
But I mean, I think the best you can do is probably a good carbon filter. Um, Barring RO filters, because reverse osmosis is incredibly expensive. And if you buy the RO water in the store, now you're buying it in a plastic bottle, unless you take your own glass carboy jug and fill that up.
Which adds another 5 pounds.
Right. But I will say, when we were transporting spring water from the 214 spring, we bought glass carboys, and we were transporting all our water in glass.
Nice.
Um, it really, the plastic really has way more negative effect than we're told.
I think that that's probably really true. Of course, anything, everything has an energy, and I think that gets lost in a lot of these discussions. And you've hinted at it a couple times now. You're talking about the living water, and ladies and gentlemen, well, here's my opinion, and it's not just mine. I didn't invent this, but I really believe that everything has an energetic signature to it. Everything does. And here's the thing, and we'll get into this as well. I don't know if we'll probably get into this in the second hour, but we're going to do some talking about how much energetic signature is in something such as water. And now that sounds bunky to you guys, but there have been plenty of studies that have shown that water responds to the energies that it's given. It's like this perfect medium that absorbs, and it will affect that water after the fact. And we'll bring up actual studies that have been done that you guys can reference yourselves if you don't believe us. But it's very much true that everything has an energy. Now, when you start introducing something as and I'm using the term impressionable, because in my mind, water is like this perfect neutral, and it'll absorb everything that it comes in contact with, including people. I think it absorbs some energy from everything that it comes in contact with. But then you put it in this plastic, container, and it's now encompassed into this plastic container, which has some kind of energy signature, but it's some kind of weird, petroleum soup that made this. I mean, this is a petroleum product. These bottles are petroleum based. And I'm not talking about vilifying anything, but I'm just talking about being aware of all of the things that come into contact with, the things that are put in your body. And I think that they all have, what are you chuckling about?
Somebody said that Berkey's supposed to be an excellent product. Yeah, you keep paying too much for that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, they are expensive. I think that
And they're only good for like 6 weeks at best.
yeah, well, for the fluoride absorption, any of them are only good for about 6 weeks, because a lot of them use terms like silver impregnated and stuff like that. But there is a point.
Aluminum.
Yeah, that ain't aluminum too. Yeah, but there is a point where that becomes saturated.
Right.
Depending on how much fluoride is in your water, you can saturate the ability of that filter to absorb it. It's not just hey, I've got silver there, so it's good forever.
Right. No.
Yeah. So
Even Berkey says you have to change the fluoride filter every 3 months, and then the silver is antibacterial, antibacterial. It's not, it doesn't kill. Once again, it doesn't kill viruses. Also, it doesn't remove fluoride. So, gosh, let's think about that for a minute.
But I'm sorry, Carlton. I'm going to kind of wedging you out of this conversation. I apologize, but I'm just talking about the things that we're going to get into that will definitely address the energetic living quality of water. I would also like to refer to the fact that in Native American First Nations belief, they definitely think of water as a spirit. It is a spirit. It is a life. And so as we're throwing those terms around, it might seem foreign and awkward, but understand that there is a belief behind this that's based on more than just hokey superstition and stuff. And we'll get into that on the second half, because I think that's going to surprise some people. And maybe you've already heard about some of these things from wherever, but water is alive. And, just as much as when you go to your garden, you're picking alive things to put into your body and, or to the grocery store or whatever. But everything that you're touching and putting into your body has a life and energy to it. And so when Carlton's talking about boiling the water, you're removing that life. And this is what he's referring to, is that energy. Am I correct? Am I phrasing that right?
Yeah, you're correct. And if you can even get to a spring, like if you get a chance to go to a good spring and just try drinking that spring water, there's a couple things you'll notice. It doesn't sit on your stomach like a normal tap water does.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you drink it, you can feel it absorbing right through your esophagus and right through your stomach immediately. It's amazing how fast it goes into your body. And the other thing you'll notice is within 10 minutes, you're going to have to pee like you haven't had to pee in eons, because it goes through you and it flushes things out very quickly. And I'm serious. It's like, you got to go. Oh no, you got to go now. It's amazing how fast it works and how
wild.
effective it is.
I suppose that, we are tuned. I think that we are biologically tuned to absorb pure water, like right now, just what you're describing, because it's such a fundamental part of our makeup, and all of these other things that are put into the water probably affects that ability to absorb and slows it down. And maybe in fact that people that survive on bottled waters and stuff like that are always in a state of dehydration, because maybe their bodies aren't absorbing it fast enough.
Right.
Right. And maybe perhaps it just passes right through because it can't be absorbed as completely. You think that's possible?
Yeah, for sure. And not only can you not absorb it, you can't get rid of it either. If you have water coming into your body that can't take on any of the toxins because it's already loaded with some other mineral or chemical or bad signature, now it can't pull anything out, and then so why is it going to leave your body? It can't take anything out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like locked up in there almost.
Right.
So I think that's a factor too.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely compelling. Very interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe we could start talking about the living quality of water, since we've already danced around it a bunch. Describe what that means, please.
Okay, so living water is basically natural water water that's been exposed to natural processes. Um, for example, spring water is an excellent form of living water that's been flowing through very deep rivers and veins in the ground, uh, and flowing in its natural state. The guy Victor Schauberger that I mentioned before um, said study and mimic nature, and what he discovered was that water flowing in rivers doesn't flow just on the 2D plane like we normally think of it.
Right.
It's actually flowing in a three-dimensional vortex as it flows down a stream. So as it comes down a slope and hits a bank, it's curling over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole process actually resets water's signature.
Oh.
So that's how you end up with living water, basically. It's water that's living in its environment because it's moving like water moves. And for some reason, that vortexual action sets its energetic signature back.
That's really cool. I had never heard of that before, but I find that really interesting. And that a simple motion could just reset it so much. And that again
Yeah.
is there's devices to mimic that, as you were saying, this eggshell thing or whatever.
Yep, there's that. And in biodynamic farming, people use something called stirring. And it's basically you're just stirring the water. We usually use it in combination with like a compost tea or something to amplify the energetic signature of the water, which amplifies the biology in the compost tea. But basically, you're stirring water until it vortexes, and then stirring the other direction until it vortexes, and you keep doing that for 15 minutes. And the difference that that makes on the water that you use and the effect that that biodynamic preparation has when you do that to the water is phenomenally different. And they also have a device. I think I've mostly only seen it in India, but it's like sets of cups going down steps,
Okay.
and they flow the water through it. And because of the way water flows, it flows into the one cup and then across to the other cup. I guess I'll try and get this on camera. It flows down into the one cup and then across to the other cup and then flows down to the next cup and keeps circulating. Same thing, clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise.
Oh. Okay.
So that's an alternative to the stirring method that they use for bigger scale biodynamic agricultural methods.
That's intense. It's just such an elementary thing, but it makes such a big difference, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's such a fascinating subject, and the more we learn about it, the more we realize we probably don't know as much as we think we do.
That's been my whole journey on the paranormal portal. So might as well add water to that as well. Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, but it makes sense. Of course, these aquifers that are way down that are feeding these springs, these waters have been filtered under there for thousands, tens of thousands of years prior to coming up in these springs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And when you think about that compared to the waters that you're getting in a city that are being forced under pressure through pipes around hard right angles and not allowed to flow like they would in a river, think how dead that water is when it's getting to you at your tap. And that's before you ever consider the fluoride, chlorine, and whatever the chemicals that's been exposed to.
Right. Now, do you see any progress in that whole fluoridation issue? I know you've got your finger on the pulse of this health stuff pretty well. I know there's a lot of groups that are fighting fluoridation.
I did hear of a couple lawsuits against cities for that.
Oh, cool.
And I haven't been following this as closely as I probably should be, but
Oh.
I hear there is some progress in that direction.
That's encouraging. Don, I think you're on a well though, aren't you?
Yeah, my water comes out of off the mountain and then down through off the river into my ponds, and my water's drawn right out of my pond.
Yeah. So I mean, Don's got the real deal right from the tap. This town that I live in is really fortunate in that this is one of the few towns that does not fluoridate its water, and I was really encouraged to read that. I thought that was incredible, and I think they still chlorinate it though, but at least they don't have the fluoridation in there. Of the two, chlorine versus fluoride, is there a better of the two evils, or are they both terrible?
I mean, they're both terrible, but if you're going to give me a forced, like I'm in prison and I have the option of fluorinated water or chlorinated water,
Yeah.
I think I'd go with chlorinated.
Yeah.
But
because
I
of
don't
the
know
flush.
that that's a smart choice.
Well, if you're in prison, you're going to get the fluoridated water, right? Because it causes
yeah.
like
Yeah.
zombieism.
Yeah.
Got
People
to
are.
program you better, right?
Yep.
Well, you do call it corrections after all.
Well said.
Thank you. But yeah, I think that's very interesting. Now, I think that we got about a minute left before the break. But will chlorine dissipate if you were to draw tap water, leave it out? Will it? I've heard it dissipates over a period of 12 or 24 hours into a gas.
24 hours typically, yeah.
Okay.
I know some people that have said that it wasn't out after 24. It took them longer.
Okay.
If you wanted to do that and accelerate that, you could get some like a little air pump, like you'd use from an aquarium,
Oh, sure.
and bubble air through it, and that would tremendously accelerate it, and that would
Okay.
also help structure the water.
Right.
Ah,
Yeah,
good
because
point.
chlorine eventually does evaporate out. So
Yep.
if you've got that water moving, especially with a bubbler, it gives it re-energizes it with the oxygen and then drives that, keeps the water flowing
Yes.
in
And
a
you're giving
natural
it surface
pattern.
area as well to evaporate more chlorination.
Right.
Yep, there's the hour break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. More of this fascinating discussion about water when we come back on the other side, so don't go away. With us and Mr. Carlton Moore, we'll be returning shortly.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an
Everybody likes to play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace the lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. But I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I am finished with my silence. I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness. Just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise. You're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity. Just make sure that you're well fed. I'm not wrong, you
they're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it. Hour number 2 is upon us. If you can believe it, we're making progress here. We're getting through the night. Hopefully you're getting lots of good information. Here some people are having issues with the crackling sound. I do apologize, but it seems to be a function of Skype. There's not much, I don't know why that is. I don't know. I can't chase it out. Obviously it's not, from the studio here, but it seems to be something with Skype. So whatever it is, I do apologize. But if you want to hear apparently better quality and you're on YouTube, you can head over to tfrlive.com /chat, and you can listen live and chat there as well. Or you can just listen live there and continue to hang out in the YouTube. It's up to you. We have options available, but as I've said before, the phone lines are open if you have a question that you'd like to ask. 720-923-0500. That'll get you through to us here in the studio, and we'll get you talking to Carlton if you got some questions about water. But Don and I are welcoming again Mr. Carlton Moore to the show, who is here to talk about the spirituality and science of water, or science and spirituality, I think is how I put it. But it's just been an incredible discussion, Carlton, and thanks again for being here. This is fascinating to me. It's just within the probably last year and a half, 2 years, I've really become more cognition of my own health. I lived for a number of years in utter denial about my health. And now, of course, I'm older and I'm catching up. Like, oh, you mean that Coca-Cola wasn't good? What? So I'm working on it. But there's water in that, Carlton.
So there's water and coffee too.
Which
But
is,
just think of the signature, Brent.
that's a signature, all right. It's the signature to my will, apparently. But yeah, I've cut down on that. Obviously, I used to drink Coca-Cola. That was my beverage. That was what I drank all of the time, and I'm sure my body is still reeling from that, even though I haven't drank much of that now for the better part of a year. Anyway, I have maybe one a week now, if that. So I've really changed that dynamic, and I do notice the change.
I was going to ask, have you noticed how you feel since you've changed that?
Yeah, that, and I've gotten on this regimen of vitamins and stuff, and that's really helped as well. I don't have the most complete diet naturally, of course, so I have to supplement it with vitamins and such. And I do notice that I have a lot more energy. That's of course a relative concept because I sleep like hell, but that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, we are talking tonight about water, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about right now. What I want to get into is again, we've been throwing around this term of living water and the idea of energy in water, and I know that seems really foreign to some people, but what I want to do now is for us to talk about ways that has been measured. Carlton, you and I have talked before, and even before the show, about some experiments that was done on water, especially with freezing water, and how it was direct correlation between the atmosphere that it was frozen in and how it froze.
Yeah, Dr. Masaru Emoto There's a whole documentary. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. And what he did was study water from all over the world, from all different sources, by taking samples of the water, taking them back to his lab, which he worked in a frozen lab with frozen microscopes, and he would take droplets of the water and take the crystals that formed from those droplets and study those under the microscope and compare the crystals that form from the different sources of water. And wow, what an amazing discovery. Um, he found that crystals of waters from natural sources like springs, from clean rainwater, those sort of things would form these beautiful, ornate, complex, and symmetrical crystals when he created crystals from them. And he found that contaminated sources created these non-symmetrical, very sick-looking crystals.
Wow.
And so he's able to kind of develop this hypothesis out and basically water has memory is what he's come to, and so whatever energy signature that water is exposed to, it maintains a memory of that signature until it goes through a resetting process, which again we're back to that living water, that natural process about vortex or steam or freezing or environmental extremes that are natural.
Now, was that not also done with what am I trying to say? Wasn't that experiment the one that I'm familiar with, and I did run across that one that you're talking about. Two questions. First of all, is the contaminated waters, were they cleaned of the contaminants first before he froze them?
I can't remember. I think he did. I think they did try some filtration, and they found that they were unable to filter out the energetic signature.
Right, but they were able to filter out the chemicals and
Yeah,
the
right.
okay,
Right.
okay. So
Right.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
make sure that was clear, because of course anything added to water would affect its ability to crystallize, but just by basis of it having other materials in there. But if they were clean first and still
Right.
maintained that, then that's incredibly interesting and
Right.
powerful.
And not only that, they took this experiment further, and they took, clean waters that formed good crystals that they determined to be clean, that they had tested for chemically to be clean and pure. I think they took spring water or rainwater or something, some clean water source, and they did another experiment where they wrote on a piece of paper. I think thank you on one, I love you on another, I hate you on another, and they put them on these different beakers with the water in it. And I think they let it sit like 24 hours or something like that. And so then they took water droplets, and each of those formed its own unique crystal. Again, very symmetrical and beautiful crystals from I love you and thank you, same. I hate you was these like horribly distorted asymmetrical forms.
Right.
And he also did an experiment with rice, same thing, with that same energetically signature charged water, just by, like I said, writing words and putting on the side of a glass beaker those words. And they found that the rice that was exposed to thank you thrived when it went into water and germinated. Uh, Same with the other one. The one that had I hate you like rotted and died, and then the one that was ignored was sick in some other way. It was really interesting how emotions and concepts were able to be charged, imparted onto the water, and that carried to everything that the water affected from there on.
And the ramifications of that are huge. I mean, that's everything. That's the whole concept of just smiling to somebody. I mean, it's the same principle that you're sending out. People talk about that all the time. Send out positive vibes. Send out lots of light. Send out.
Well, but hang on a sec, because aren't we 70 to 90% water?
That's
So
true.
here we are again.
Here we are again. I think I got a little more than 90, but but my point is that it's we are in an emotional state, and we are subject to emotional states of those around us. And it's kind of like raising a child. Everything is kind of like a child in a sense, including us. If we're treated kind and with respect, we'll probably develop into kind and respectful people and perpetuate that into the world. If we're treated poorly and mistreated horrendously, we will suffer and have issues throughout our lives, and we'll probably perpetuate that on after us. And so it's like this energy is so important because it really is more than just feel good, lovey, feely kind of stuff. It's fundamental to healing the world.
Yeah, it is, and when you think about that impact, if those energetic signatures are so powerful in water, what are we doing to our rivers and streams when we discharge sewage from cities into them?
Right.
What are we doing to the ocean when we do that?
Yeah.
How does that affect the consciousness of the rest of the planet? I mean, this can go into like this deep philosophical talk.
Mm-hmm. It can, and it
Terrence
should.
McKenna style, like.
it should though, because I think that's the unifying factors of all of this is that we oftentimes hear things like little slogans on mugs, practice random acts of kindness, and we think, oh, that's cute and fluffy and that's nice, but now damn it, I got to get to work, and we throw those things away, we discard them because they're fluffy little anecdotes and they aren't given very much gravity in our world. But when we look at studies like this and we look at the ramifications of a little bit of love on some water and how it directly affected not only the way it froze, but its ability to help perpetuate life in the rice, and how that was manifest and multiplied and continued to cause wonderful things in its wake. The ramifications of that are so profound and so incredible that, to me, what it does is it reaffirms being a good person, because it's so important. And we often feel so disempowered in our world because we see all this craziness going on, and it feels like, well, what can I do? Maybe all you can do is just
feel affected by it too sometimes. And
right.
It's like you have to learn to like mitigate that for yourself and then go back to that love and keep spreading that love, because that's what you want to come back to you, right?
Exactly. And that's what we want to see manifest in the world. And, it's this, I'm so pissed at them because they're doing this that I'm going to do something too. Well, that's the old concept of, that negative will not counteract the other negative.
And how do you think they're going to respond? Oh, same.
Right.
Oh, and how long is that going to go on? Oh, forever. Okay.
Right.
And we have wars going on forever, and we can't figure out why.
Right. And I'm not trying to go full hippie here, but I think it's important because it is an empowering concept. It empowers those loving acts, and it creates an urgency for them in light of all of the ugliness that's going on. And the only way that I know a lot of people are pissed right now. Hell, I'm pissed right now with some of the stuff going on. It's crazy. Yep. It's crazy. And it's maddening, and it makes me furious that people are going so wild out there. But the only thing that we can do maybe is to just send out some more love, and I understand how that sounds. Believe me. Nobody understands that more clearly than I do, but at the same time, in light of things like this, we can see the potency and the global ramifications of that, and I think that that's incredibly empowering.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. It looks like we got 48 people watching right now. Even if just those 48 people take that home, and they take a glass bottle and they put love, kindness, health, vitality, whatever positive message you want to put on that water, and you drink that water, and you affect how many people in your life,
right?
How fast does that spread? And then what if you share that with a couple of your neighbors and friends? I mean, I think, like, to go home and start from the smallest thing yourself and to build that out, like, that's such a simple solution. That means it's so easy to fix if we just make the smallest effort.
Right. And maybe maybe that's why we're doing the show, tonight. Maybe that's why this is happening now, because this is what needed to happen. And and I don't think the paranormal portal is going to change the world, but maybe we can help. Maybe we can help just a little bit and help people to remember, because it's easy to get lost in the anger cycle that's going on right now, and it's easy to buy into that and just want to throw it all into the fan and and start over. But I think that we can heal, we can fix, and we can persevere, and we can come through this better than we went into it. But it's going to take a lot of incredible people doing some incredible things.
For sure, but unless some people start, it never happens, right? So
Right. So we'll
start at home. Start with your water. Get a glass container like I use for my water. Write some good words on it. Thank you. I love you. Happiness, health. Put that on your water. Try it. See how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah, good idea. Very good idea. That's cool. And the fact that emotion is such a powerful thing in so many ways, we're often led to these concepts, and it's just, it's often easy to just, again, dismiss those things because it sounds nice. It's it's a coffee mug, it's a T-shirt saying, and those feel good for a minute, but when you think of the potential ramifications of something nice and how it can expand and spread, it becomes powerful. What?
Yeah.
They're talking about buying glass. They're in the chat. They're talking about buying glass jars and jugs and things, and putting their writing words on it and putting it on the jug and things. But Wonder Woman, she says moonshine is better from a glass container.
That's funny that she said that, because when Carlton, when you raised that up, I was going to say I thought that was moonshine.
No.
That's funny.
Wow, I couldn't. Boy, I'd be passed out in 3 sips probably if it was moonshine. Good Lord.
So Carlton, what about magnets? Using magnets with your water?
Yes, there are magnetic techniques, but my understanding is that that's a little more complex to get right, and it also is more effective when done through a vortex. But are you using a magnetic jug right there?
Oh no.
Tap?
No, this is just my jug.
It's just his wino jug.
My jug. Everybody knows the jug. But no, I mean, people in the chat room, specifically Naysay, he earlier asked a question about using magnets and water and things like that. So
Yeah, you can. What you're trying to do is channel the water that you want to treat between two like poles, so that you're causing this incredible charge zone, right? A magnet, actually, if you look at a magnet, if you take a magnet, like a cylindrical magnet, and you put it in water, and you put two voltage leads to it, you'll actually see that there's an electrical vortex spinning around that magnet all the time. And magnets are actually two north and a south vortex spinning through each other at the same time. It's really interesting if you start studying magnetism. So again, what we're really back to here is vortex and studying and mimicking nature and the natural processes of the universe, even with a magnet.
right. So
Interesting.
yeah, one thing he also said is make sure to do your research because there can be adverse reactions
To
to using magnets in your water.
Yeah, that's the thing I would say. That's why I said that magnets are more complicated, because you want to achieve a balanced magnetism, and you can have positive or negative, and either one of too much,
Oh,
obviously,
unbalances your water.
yeah, right. And remember, we're electrical systems.
Oh, true.
All of our nerves work on electric, right?
Excellent point.
So you have to be careful how, again, the whole energy thing, like it says, there's a spiritual energy, there's an electrical energy there, there's a water signature there, there's a heartbeat there, there's all these energetic pieces, and it's like you got to really be careful that you don't do something that negatively affects them, because it can have more impact than you realize.
Yeah, that's actually a
Or
good
don't
point.
realize.
I wouldn't have actually thought about that, because well, we're mostly salt water, you know, and so the magnetism would have an effect on our electrical, you know, our neurological system as well. That's something I hadn't even thought of.
Ruth,
Yeah.
Ruthie in the TFR chat says you use shungite stones instead. Shungite. I know
Yes,
it.
I have heard of that.
Okay.
And also, crystals are good. And also, you could add like a pinch of pink Himalayan salt to your water, and that'll add both trace minerals, and that will also add the signature of the 90 trace minerals that are in the pink Himalayan
Oh,
salt.
good point.
So there are things like that you can do.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Wow. I'm learning so much tonight. It's just scary. But I think this is great information, and I think it does. It may not be a normal paranormal portal kind of show, but at the same time, it does tie in because we're talking about our spirituality. A lot of times on the show, we've talked about making contact with other intelligences, whether you're investigating, whether you're practicing on being a medium, or some other esoteric pursuit. Again, it's important. There's the old saying, the mind, body, spirit. Well, you can work on the mind and get as far as you can. You can work on the spirit, but if your body's out of whack, if your body's dealing with all of these stresses and all of these pulls and pushes and you're out of balance, it's definitely going to affect you in a lot of ways. Of course, disease could manifest as a result of being out of balance and out of whack. Other illnesses and problems, normal organ function can be all over the map based upon all of these foreign elements in our diets and in our beverages and such. So it is important, and I think it's really cool to add this to the things that we discuss on the show because we oftentimes leave ourselves out of these equations. Being receptive to spiritual presences. Well, if you're not working in harmony of mind, body, spirit, that's going to be hard for you. Those extra sensory perceptions. I really truly hate the term ESP because I think it's the practiced art of charlatans and con artists. But I do believe there are obviously there are sensitive people and that are able to tap into things, and I think that. It can only be empowered by taking better care of ourselves. And literally,
sure.
we in the Western world are living in a toxic soup. We really are. I mean, we've got, we're not even touching on things like cosmetics and deodorants and all of the other things that we're pasting on our
Yeah.
bodies and absorbing in. And so I think the point is that one of the things that will help you deal with that and mitigate those other influences is by having living water, structured water, clean water to help cleanse your system out. Because I'm pretty sure we're all probably operating in toxic levels if, we're not paying attention to those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It's interesting. While we're on that energetic topic from Dr. Masaru Emoto and the concept of uh, ideas and thoughts and emotions being able to be caught by water. I just want to make the point. You think about that's supported even religiously with the idea of holy water and that whole sort of thing.
Yes.
Um,
Yep. Well, exactly. And,
so
and that,
like it's like science that supports that actually works,
yes.
right?
Well, you had talked about that water has a memory, and that perfectly makes sense why things like blessed water can work, because the water is retaining the memory of that blessing, and it's spreading it to everything it touches. And so that's how moon water is powerful. That's how holy water is powerful. It's because the water does have that memory, and that makes sense to me. And no other concept has, Carlton. This whole water has a memory thing, because I often wondered, well, what if you didn't? What if you just had water? Well, it doesn't have that memory, so it's just water then. But once it's empowered with the spirit, it becomes powerful, which is something I talk about a lot on the show, is that when you believe in something, it becomes powerful. Well, the water apparently not only can be empowered by it, but it'll remember it, and so that water continues on. So let's say you just in the example of holy water, you've got holy water, you walk around sprinkling it. it evaporates. It'll be in your air. It'll be holy air water, which then will rejoin the clouds at some point, and it'll become rain. And just think of how that perpetuates that positivity, that blessing, that prayer. It's a cleansing element that is going to become a part of the world ecosystem. It'll be in a river somewhere. It'll be in in the ocean somewhere. And if all of the water was blessed, how powerful would that be?
Yep. And I hope people will also take the negative side of that with them as well. And think about when they use chemicals or toxins and they dispose of that water, that they're putting that out into the system as well.
Good point.
Like I hate to focus on negative things, but it's good to consider that as well.
It's right. We got our next break, ladies and gentlemen. Last break of the night, but we're going to continue on the other side. So don't go away for more of the Paranormal Portal when we return. Ladies and gentlemen, last half hour is upon us. The night has flown by, but I know that all of you all out there are gaining some value from this. I know I am. I'm just finding this absolutely fascinating. It's actually, really making a lot of sense for some things that I've wondered about for years. So, water has memory. Who'd have thought it? But I'll
Who'da
tell you.
remembered it?
Huh?
Who'd have remembered it?
Well, because Don has no memory.
What?
Yes, exactly. But we are joined tonight, ladies and gentlemen, by Carlton Moore, otherwise known as the Pharmacy Seeds Network, who is joining us today to talk about the science and spirituality of water. And we've hit on some incredible stuff tonight. I mean, really powerful, powerful stuff. And I realize the topic may seem bizarre to some people. It's like, well, what the hell does this have to do with the paranormal? But it's a fundamental part of our lives, just like the paranormal. Well, for me anyway.
For sure. I like the fact that you tied that into the evaporation and how that ends up in the air too. That was something I wanted to mention because, like, when you think about this concept and you think about all the places that water exists on this planet, it starts to really it'll fry your mind when you start to think about what that all actually means.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's possible to heal the world, and what that means is, to me, is that I think the one thing that we all need right now is some hope. We need some hope.
Yeah.
Not hope and change, hope.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, I just mean, that we need something to believe in, because right now everything is upside down and backwards when it should be forwards, and it just feels like we're in a different world. And so I think that hope is powerful, that it can matter.
This gives us something to believe in and a way to propagate that belief and have faith that it will actually manifest.
Yeah.
Because you can affect the water around you, you can affect the water going into you, and through the people you interact with, you can affect them too. So
Right.
you have the power in your hands. Just go use it.
Right. Very true. I think that, if anything, the current events right now are making people feel like they're disempowered and they're not able to make any change because it's so big. The problems right now seem so big. And just to know that a simple, message of love in some water could really make a difference. That to me is encouraging. And that means that everybody is powerful. We just, we have to unify as well, I guess, in our intentions to send out good things into the world. And again, I'm not not trying to go full hippie here, but I really believe there's some profound truth in this. There's a profound power in it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And so that's part of our journey on the portal, is to discuss and come up with ideas and to explore these concepts. Now, many cultures around the world have dealt with water as if it is a living spirit, like with intelligence, with sentience. And there's some amazing stories out there of people that have talked to the water, like there's this one commercial that was going around, and this Native American woman was having some flooding in her home, and she was talking about how distraught she was, but then she started to sit down in her basement where the flooding was starting to happen and talk to the water and asked it please to spare her home, and it turns out that it did. It went a different direction. Awesome. Suddenly, and that's a powerful concept. That it could be communicated with, and could it have an intelligence? It could be, I guess, for those people that are logic minded, it could just be a coincidence. And I won't take that away. I won't say that that's not a possibility, but she had that belief. She went down to her basement that was flooding. Everything she had was going to be destroyed. And she pleaded with the water and prayed to it to go a different way. And suddenly it did. And you got to wonder, when you're talking about probabilities and chance, you'd have better luck pulling perfectly folded clothes out of your dryer than to have that happen. You would ask the water to stop, and it would.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you ever watched water, once it starts flowing down one particular streamway, It keeps going there.
Right.
It doesn't just change directions, at least unless you ask it.
Right, exactly. So apparently we can ask it, and it may happen. Now, I assume that she probably had a long-standing spirituality, and had this wasn't her first rodeo for talking to the water, but the fact that it was effective to me is just incredible. And I think that's, again, with our Western sensibilities, we're not taught these things. We're not taught to acknowledge the natural world around us. And we're not taught to revere it in its own sense. We're, in many ways, the Judeo-Christian model is it's ours. We'll do it the hell we want, And I'm not saying that exclusively. I know there's plenty of very eco-environmentally minded Christians out there, but I'm just saying generally that it's emboldened some to just do as they will because it was given to us. It's ours. It says so. And this isn't about bashing a religion either, so please just understand. I'm just citing it as an example. I'm not putting down anybody's faith or belief, but that's certainly the mindset of some people out there. I've had those discussions with some of those people, and it's troubling. But I think there is a spirit to everything, and you can come to those conclusions however you choose to. But what do you think of that, Carlton?
I think you're right, and I think those people of that mindset are not carrying the full word of that. And here it's yours to do what you want with, but that means take care of it.
Exactly. That's almost the exact discussion that I had. In fact, I wrote about it in my book. I was like, the fact that if indeed that is the case and it was given to us, then it was given to us to care for, not to, to be the babysitter that throws a house party and has a kegger while the parents are gone.
Right.
That's not how it should work.
Yeah. The idea was you were going to care for it and that it would perpetuate. But if you're not going to care for it and it doesn't perpetuate, then I haven't given you anything anyway, have I?
Right. Good point. Yeah, very good point. Right? Yes, I agree completely, and I think that there is a beauty in looking at the world around us and acknowledging a spirit to it. And it may seem again foreign to many people to imagine that concept, but if you so here's I don't know. I'm going to spider web on this a little bit, but I gotta say it. If you believe that this was created, then, and you believe that all things were brought into being by this divine intelligence and presence, then what you have to acknowledge then is that since energy can't be created nor destroyed, it just changes form. Then what we are living in is a manifestation of the divine, and you don't treat the divine like garbage. So right. I'll just leave that there. That's kind of my nutshell about that.
I completely agree. No, that's exactly right.
But so we've got about 17 minutes left, brother. Anything that you feel we should really touch on before the clock runs out on us?
Let's see. I suppose we should talk real briefly about easy water or exclusion zone water.
Okay.
Just to touch on another aspect of water's wild properties. So easy water is something that a man named Dr. Gerald Pollack discovered. You can look him up on YouTube. He's got several videos. He's also been on Advancing Eco-Agriculture's podcast talking about water as it relates to farming. Basically what he discovered is that when you put water in your hydroscopic and hygroscopic surfaces, in other words, water-repelling and water-loving surfaces, within that zone, right near those surfaces, I can't remember if it was the water repellent. I think it's the surface that pulls hygroscopic, the surface that pulls water to it. Mm-hmm. Within a certain, I think it's like 3 millimeter zone, that water that's in that zone next to that membrane on the edge of that container is of a certain property and quality. And if you can draw that off with a straw, like a very thin tube, that water has all sorts of amazing properties about how much less soap you can use in it. It has a lot of properties similar to that of living water, basically. And one of the things that they tied this to was, when you sprain an ankle or something, and all of a sudden your ankle swells up so fast, and you just can't even imagine how fast it swells up sometimes.
Yeah.
The idea is that water is that same water, that exclusion zone water that our body develops because we have hygroscopic and hydroscopic surfaces in our system, and that water that rushes to that site is that type of water.
Oh.
But anyway, like just to touch on it, check out Dr. Gerald Pollack. He's done some really interesting physics experiments on water, and he has some excellent talks on that as well.
Wow, that's really interesting. Wow. Yeah, I mean, you think about the human body, and it's incredibly complex, articulate mechanism. Every once in a while, I'll watch those, those documentaries on how our body works and such, and it really does marvel me. It's like, God, this is incredible. Our bodies are amazing.
It's fascinating. Yeah, yeah. Just all the things that are going on and simultaneously and staying balanced.
Yeah.
Like just that works.
That it works at all is amazing, especially mine. But it's getting better. I'm getting better, Carlton. I'll just have you know, I'm a work in progress here. But
we're all on a journey, Brent. 15 years ago, I was buying fluorinated coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, dumping a bunch of aspartame and fake creamer into it, and drinking that on the way to work. So.
Just like Mom used to make.
Oh man, I look back at that and I'm like, but I just didn't know. I didn't know.
Right. Where did it start for you? Where did you start knowing?
2013, the 2013 Soil and Nutrition Conference from NOFA, Massachusetts, Northeastern Organic Farmers Association in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Several good speakers were there. The one that really caught my attention was, two of them actually were John Kempf and Dan Kittredge, and they were talking about farming and growing truly healthy plants, and then they touched on how that immunity can transfer to humans and how that affects human health, and it really opened my mind to how flawed our current agricultural systems are, and also that there are solutions. We can fix this.
Yeah.
And so that's what really excited me, was like, oh, actually, there's something we can do about it.
And that's what you've implemented in your own system there.
Yeah, and that's what put me on the whole pathway about human health. I never had any interest in human health really when I was younger. Not that I went out of my way to live an unhealthy lifestyle, but
Sure.
I didn't know, and I didn't care that much. But when I stumbled across that, I realized, because I have such passion for growing plants, like that's what did it for me. And then I realized that, that translates to us, and it's like, oh, well, then it only makes sense to carry that forward to human health as well.
And speaking of your channel, I find it very interesting, and I don't get over there nearly as much as I'd like to, but I find it fascinating, not only all of the efforts and inventiveness you're putting into it, but all the passion. I mean, you're so passionate about it.
Thanks. Yeah, I really do. I love it all. I love to learn, and I love to share that knowledge when I learn. So.
Right. Well, that's good, and I'm glad to hear that. I just had an error from YouTube here. I don't know. Let me just send a message. Are you guys hearing us okay? I got a yellow bar on there. It says YouTube is not receiving enough video.
I see your chat just popped up, so I see it.
Yeah, the chat moves. Okay. Everything's still moving? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm watching the stream too, so you're solid.
All right. Well, it must be YouTube just being a little particular, but awesome, guys. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. I knew TFR was okay, but I wanted to make sure we weren't losing YouTube. Not yet. We've got us for about 11 more minutes. So, Farm, let's talk about your channel a little bit. What are you doing over there?
All right. So, my channel is aimed at educating people I can't even say primarily. Okay, about soil and plant health and plant nutrition, and how to grow healthy plants that are both pest and disease resistant, and how part of that is using healthy plants to grow healthy soils and vice versa. along with that, there's a lot of technical stuff related to greenhouses, pumping water, doing foliar feeds, which is feeding plants through their leaf surfaces.
Oh.
I have honeybees. I have chickens. I also have a Raspberry Pi in the greenhouse, so I write my own computer code for that. There's videos on that. Just all sorts of stuff related to basically like if you wanted to set up a homestead, um, stuff along those lines, I guess you would say, but with an emphasis on plant health and nutrition and using symbiotic relationships when integrating with any farming system, growing system, planting system, whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just amazing, and some of the concepts that you introduce on your channel, I think, are profound and really cool. Even the pump that I can't remember what you called it, but it was this weird
Hydraulic ram pump, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that kind of stuff is just bizarre, but it's
self perpetuating as long as it doesn't break down. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're
and
amazing.
it really works.
Right.
Oh yeah. It moves about 1,200 gallons a day from the spring out back to the storage tanks in my in the barn here, and then the overflow is directed down into the crop zone, so it's always charging the aquifer for the crops.
Isn't it crazy just how something that small can move that much water?
Yeah. It's I was fascinated with that concept ever since I was probably 14 or 15, and I always wanted to build one. And so then when I ended up on this farm and I saw that spring set up, I was like, I can do this. I can finally build one.
So yeah, I mean, when I was working for this company, I don't know much about aquaponics and hydroponics and things like that, growing things like that, but they put me to work figuring out, how to do like solar and wind, and so that's kind of where I went. So use a PMG, not a PMA.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have some solar power in the greenhouse. I'd love to add more solar, but that's a little more expensive.
How's your wind up there? Do you get a good amount of wind per day?
Not on a regular basis. Like in the winter, we definitely get hammered with the wind, and I've thought about putting a small wind setup up as a supplement for the greenhouse power banks. But it's not super frequent. I've also looked at hydro, but the spring doesn't really produce enough water to produce an appreciable amount of power from the hydro system. Just there isn't a lot of drop there.
Well, if you figured out a way to use your ram pump to create the moving water to use the turbine, then that might be the way to go.
I thought about that, but when I looked into that, that's even greater loss because you're only getting about 7% efficiency out of the pump.
So, okay.
But I mean, it is what it is. Like you can't do everything for free.
Well, that's the truth for sure. And do you ever do speaking engagements other than the few times you've been on the show here? Because you should be.
I would like to.
That's my point. Is that you should be, because the information that you're bringing to the table, I think, it's not just for those people that have a home farms.
Right.
It's the things you discussed on the show regarding nutrition. Were incredible. The things you've discussed and brought to the table tonight regarding water are incredible. And it seems to me you should either be writing a book or you should be lecturing, or both.
I would like to do some speaking. I haven't found a way for that to line up for me yet, and I also feel like I have a little bit more to learn.
Oh,
a little bit more to kind of refine before I feel like I'm ready to deliver to a crowd of people.
Okay.
But I definitely, I definitely am interested in an opportunity like that, and I'm sure when the time is right, one will come along.
Well, here's to hoping, because, well, in the meantime, you can always come on the portal and share your nuggets of wisdom, because, I know that they definitely are they're powerful to me. And not that I'm a cynic by any means, but, we get so over inundated with information, and it just, I don't know, it just oftentimes falls on the wayside. But when you're talking about things, I find that it's not only profound, but it's practical. What you're saying is practical and makes sense, and it's emboldening me to take bigger strides in my own health and well-being, and I think that it's probably doing the same for many of the listeners. Because I think the problem is that it's kind of like anything else. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of bad information out there, and it becomes the big problem is who do you listen to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's
Who do
got
you
it
trust?
right? Yeah, who's got it right? And it's a lot of times what has been occurring to me is that the people that I did regard as the experts and the people that knew this stuff, now it feels like I'd just fallen for a shell game for so
Right.
long,
Right.
with the moving goalposts and the changing rules and well, now this is bad for you. No, now that's fine, but don't do this. And it made it impossible to adopt, for me to adopt healthy living, because the rules kept changing, because the discovery was either partial or flawed or something. And then, it's like, oh, this is good for you. This will help. Oh, no, never mind. It damages other stuff. So
Right.
now you should be doing this. And, even in supplements and all of that, there's just a lot of bad information out there. So I think a voice like yourself that's well-researched, your delivery is good and it's credible and believable. And, you can tell it's something you truly believe in for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, that's basically I kind of use that as my model of, like, would I share this with someone else? Well, would I do it to me?
Mm-hmm.
If I do it to me, then okay, yeah, then I'll share it with somebody. If I wouldn't do it to me, then I probably shouldn't do it to somebody else, or tell them that they should do it to them.
Right.
And again, I appreciate you guys talking so highly of me, but also, do your own research too. I always encourage people to do their own research, and do what's right for you. Listen to your body.
Right.
Mm.
That's important.
Well, I think that's a good concept too, because I think that people are very individual and that there isn't a one size fits all for anybody. But I think just taking little pieces and parts and kind of Bruce Lee-ing it yourself and coming up with a system that works, I think that's very powerful. But I really appreciate you doing this. I want you to make sure to tell people how to find you. So if you would please.
All right. So my channel is the Pharmacy Seeds Network. That's FARMACY, as in let food be thy medicine. And you can find me over on YouTube. I also have a Twitter account. I forget what the account name is. I'm also on MeWe as the Pharmacy Seeds Network, as an alternative to Facebook, because I just can't stand that site.
Yeah, I think that's kind of getting universal all over the place. But brother, thank you for coming on and being a part of our journey. And please stay on the line after the show. Don and I'll chat with you on the other side a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed this journey into the Paranormal Portal. Once again, check out the Teespring site. Don has uploaded a brand new design.
Brand new today.
Brand new design, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see if I can pull this up here quick.
Oh, yeah.
And tell people about the coupon, Don.
Yeah, the coupon. That's right. We got a 15% off coupon you can use specifically to get your new gear. It is, I believe it's all capital letters. So it's
Yes.
ID, as in Independence, the number 4, Portal, Portal. That's ID 4 Portal.
And it's our 4th of July sale. And what will that code get them, Don?
It'll get them 15% off their brand new gear.
And here's some of the brand new gear. Is it on here?
I'm not. It should be.
Okay, where should I be seeing it?
Right
There it is.
There it is.
There's the brand new design, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, bring it up. Bring it up.
I'm trying.
There it is.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen, the skeleton holding the old-time microphone. It's the Paranormal Portal podcast t-shirt coming to you live today.
It's
Actually,
official and
it's just released. So
yeah, just did it. Yep.
this is literally, Don got this live just before the show. So check this out. It would certainly go a long way to help us, and you'd be wearing the sexiest logo in all of radio. So I'm just saying.
All of the interwebs and radios.
Yeah, that's right.
Just saying.
Just saying. But there you go. It's our own design. Hope you like it. And if you don't like it for you, buy it for someone else.
And you could always just, buy it and send it to us.
Yeah, I don't even have one of my own.
Oh.
So
Are we? Oh, you know what? We don't have time. But remember, if you have favorite parts or favorite pieces
Yes.
of the portal, send them to us. What episode it was, what timestamp for the listener's
favorite.
choice
Yep.
episode.
Yeah, we're putting together a listener's choice episode. So if there's a portal piece or part that you enjoyed on an episode that you checked out in one of our older ones, definitely send us an email, paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Let us know the episode and the timestamp, and we'll add your suggestion to the reel. So far, I've received 0, but I'm hoping that'll pick up.
Come on, everyone. We'll see you later.
All right, guys. We love you all. Be good,
Thanks,
be kind, be
guys.
nice.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Carlton. You've been great. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.